Hey guys, how's it going? This is Nate English, and this is going to be a talk about hydration and specifically about drink mixes. Given the fact that we all want to, stay hydrated and perform well while we're training or racing, it's probably a good idea to figure out what the best drink mix is going to be for us. So in order to answer the question of, what's the best drink mix for us, it's really good to know kind of what criteria we're going to use to, judge a product and judge whether or not it's doing its job for us or helping us to, achieve our goals, whether that's to, get a good training session or to perform well on race day. So the obvious things that we're going to look for in a drink mix is we want to, stay hydrated or at least prevent the oncoming of dehydration because, if it's hot out, we're going to sweat a lot more than we drink, and there's no way that we can, ultimately prevent dehydration, but we can definitely drastically slow the rate of that occurring. And then we also want to take in calories so that we can continue to perform well throughout the duration of our session. While we exercise, there's going to be two main sources of fuel that we're using to do the work that we need to do, whether we're running or cycling or swimming or what have you. We have a basically unlimited supply of body fat, and as we exercise, our body is really effective at keeping a pretty steady level of fatty acids in our blood, and we can kind of burn those at a steady rate, but they are more oxygen costly to burn than carbohydrates. So as we exercise more and more intensely, our metabolism shifts much more towards carbohydrate burning, and by the time we're exercising at a threshold pace or power output, almost all or basically all of the energy that we're using to do that work is basically all from muscle glycogen and blood glucose. At very high rates of metabolism, the majority is going to be coming from muscle glycogen, which cannot be replenished until we finish our session and start to have some recovery meal and recoup some of that lost glycogen. So today's workout, basically when you start, you're kind of set, and the only thing you can do is to slowly replenish the blood glucose that you have in order to hopefully delay the burning of muscle glycogen and to continually provide a source of blood glucose so you can keep doing some of those harder efforts. So pretty much every drink mix has at least a few hundred milligrams of sodium per serving or per bottle that you would mix, and there's definitely a range there, but except for electrolyte only tablets like Noon or Goo hydration tabs, all of them are going to provide some carbohydrate source as well. And so we want to take a look at how much they provide, and we want to consider what the best source is going to be for us individually. So given the fact that all of the drink mixes are going to have some concentration of sodium, and except for electrolyte only tablets, they'll also have some concentration of carbohydrates, you could imagine that you could drink any of them in a mix that was either like a little bit lighter or a little bit heavier, and you could normalize them so that they all had maybe the same electrolyte content or the same calorie content if you wanted to. In some cases that would yield very extremely high calorie content or extremely high sodium content, so you wouldn't want to do that in some instances. But functionally, because you can mix them a little bit heavier or lighter, we really only are going to care about the ratios of sodium and sugars and starches and the profile of what's in there. Whatever the serving suggestion is for that product, it's going to be a good guideline for how dense you would want to mix it, but you don't have to follow that exactly. And really, we're going to do well or poorly with any product based on the ratio of the ingredients in there and how densely we mix it. So we have a little bit of leeway there. So how much sodium and how much carbohydrate are in these drink mixes and what forms of carbohydrate are in there, those are good questions, and I actually have a table that I made up that kind of goes over the breakdown of several popular products that exist nowadays. There's probably dozens of other ones that aren't on this table, but it at least gives you an idea of what they all look like. And as you can see, most of them have some combination of sucrose or dextrose or maltodextrin, and those are like the three main ingredients that almost all of them are made up of, along with some sodium, some potassium, And some of them have a little bit of calcium and magnesium in different quantities. Some of them also have maybe some amino acids or some vitamin C. Amino acids can be cool because they will slightly reduce the rate of protein breakdown during medium to very long intense sessions, and that can definitely be performance enhancing and improve your recovery after that session. I would probably prefer to have some product that has a little bit of amino acids than not, but I think that's a lower level concern than just how much sodium and how much carbohydrate and what kinds of carbohydrates are in our drink mixes. As far as vitamin C is concerned, or other supplemental antioxidants that might exist in a variety of products, I generally would much prefer not to have those things in any of my food products when I'm training. Increasingly over the last several years, there's been interesting research that suggests that supplemental antioxidants that you could consume while you're exercising basically blunts the positive effects of your training, because some of what encourages your body to adapt and get fitter is the oxidative stress that it sustains while you exercise. So if you clean up a lot of that oxidative stress by taking an antioxidant, you reduce the impact of that training session, and it's basically counterproductive. So all things being equal, I would avoid having vitamin C or vitamin E or vitamin A in a drink mix or food that I was eating while I was training. Or if things are similar, I would go for the one that has lower concentrations of those things. Sodium and potassium, they're pretty straightforward. They can come in buffered forms, so sometimes drinks will have sodium citrate or sodium bicarbonate instead of just sodium chloride, which is like table salt. And that's cool because it's a basic substance and might be marginally performance enhancing, but I wouldn't be too concerned about the exact form of the sodium. But again, all things being equal, I would rather have sodium citrate probably than just sodium chloride. Probably the biggest thing is, what is the density of carbohydrates relative to the electrolyte content, and where are those coming from? Are they, just simple sugars? Are they sucrose, which is table sugar? Are they dextrose, which is basically just glucose? A lot of drink mixes are a combination of those two things. So, several of the drink mixes on that table, including Gatorade, are basically just straight up simple sugars. Some of that is glucose, some of that is sucrose. Sucrose just being glucose and fructose, in one disaccharide. A lot of other drink mixes, especially the higher calorie ones, will have a lot of maltodextrin or some other polysaccharide. That's cool because those are really quickly digested and quickly absorbed, and you can generally have a higher concentration of calories with fewer molecules per unit of fluid. So that might increase slightly the absorption rate of those fluids. But on the other hand, those drinks don't taste as sweet, which may or may not be your preference, and they also don't agree well with some people's stomachs. So definitely it's good to go out and try different products to see what's going to work well for you. No matter what drink mix you end up choosing though, you have to figure out a strategy that's going to allow you to get in the amount of fluids that you think are going to work well for you, and to get in the calories that you think are appropriate. So whether you're just drinking a calorie dense drink mix, or you're drinking something that's lighter on calories and then you're eating some solid food on the side, you want to make sure that that total package of drinking and eating is going to work out for you. And that's going to really come down to you probably going out and getting a couple different drink mixes and trying them out, and trying out different food products. I would try, one or two products that are lower in calories, one or two that are higher in calories, and try ones that are, mostly just sugar based, and some of them that maybe have a lot more starchy substances. And you can see in the table that some of them, the first ingredient is maltodextrin, and if you look at the profile, the majority of the carbohydrate is not simple sugars. So you can get a good feel for where the calories are coming from quite easily, and you can maybe just make sure that you try one of each of those three classes of products. A lower calorie, a medium calorie, and a medium to higher calorie drink that mostly gets the calories from starches instead of simple sugars. And then combine that with whatever eating strategy you want to take, whether you're eating little chews or you're eating solid foods like bars and cookies and stuff like that. But definitely go out and try stuff in training. Training's fun, you do your workouts and that's great, but also pay attention to other things, like technical skills, but definitely practice your eating so that you can know that you can drink, a certain amount and eat a certain amount, and that you're going to be able to do that on race day or during your goal event, whether that's a century or a marathon or a Ironman triathlon, and make sure that you're gonna have your stomach ready as well as the rest of your body for whatever your goal event is. Probably you'll be able to quickly discern whether or not you like a higher calorie or lower calorie drink mix, and whether or not you like having starches or just sugars in your drink mix. But then once you narrow it down, also try mixing it a little bit denser or a little bit lighter and see exactly what concentration is going to work well for you. Use maybe the recommended mixture instructions, but then deviate a little bit and go up 20% or down 20% from there to see how well that's going to work for you in different concentrations. And then obviously there's maybe a bit of a challenge if you're doing really long training sessions or you're doing a long event, because you might start your ride with a couple of bottles that you made at home, but then 2 or 3 hours into your ride or your race, you might be just getting water, or you might be getting some other product that isn't what you started with. So take that into account. So if you're training, you can just take a bag of drink mix, or you could maybe reuse a Noon canister and put some drink mix in there, and refill your bottles 2 or 3 hours in with whatever your preferred drink mix is. Or a little bit easier to deal with, you could just start with drink mix and then finish up hours 2 and 3 and 4 of your ride or your long brick session or something like that, and just use Noon or GU electrolyte tablets to replenish electrolytes, but then just lean a little bit more on solid foods for those later hours in your training session. So definitely experiment with that in training. And then also, if you are going to be doing a race or an event where a drink mix is provided, try to research what that mix is going to be, and then try that out in training and see how well you tolerate it, and see how much you can take that is going to be comfortable and effective for you. Because even if you prefer to use Osmo at home in training, but you're going to have like Gatorade at the marathon that you're doing or something like that, you want to know how well you tolerate that and know whether or not you're going to want to use that product or how much of it you're going to want to use. If you do just have water available later in your training session, or you only have water available later in your bike race or what have you, you might want to make sure that you have some food product or gel that is a little bit higher in sodium, so that if you do have only water, you can combine that with something solid that's going to provide you calories, but also provide you a decent amount of sodium. And if you look at different bars or gels or snack foods that you might put in your pockets, there's going to be a pretty wide range of sodium content. Some of them don't have very much, but some of them have a good bit. So go out there and train, try different products. And if you do that, if you try a few different products and see what works well for you and kind of refine that process, you'll be well on your way to having a pretty perfect nutrition strategy for you. I think that's going to be it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it. I really want to just put stuff out there that's useful to you and hopefully fun to watch. And go ahead and subscribe if you want to see the next time I put out content like this. I just want to put out stuff that's going to help you get more out of your training and racing. And that's it. I'll see you later.